Station. Tommy Boyds.
Afternoon, I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. Between now and 4 o'clock, I have a thought which won't go away. This programme is designed to be more of a conversation and less of a traditional piece of broadcasting. The mental image I hope you have of it is having somebody else in the car with whom you'd be having a conversation, much as the conversation you are hearing. Or perhaps if you're at home, you'd be sat around the kitchen table or sat in the living room in the sofa yakking about, whatever we're yakking about. And you should feel as though it's as accessible as that. And in many ways, we try to make sure that the way we talk about things is the way things get talked about. When somebody is executed, and it happened last night in the United States of America, I think we all are moved one way or another, a lot. I remember as a child, when execution still took place in this country, the mood in the house before breakfast when somebody was going to be dispatched at either 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, it used to be. And I can remember even at the age of 5 and 6 and 7, as the clock got to 5 to 9, I can remember particularly my grandparents in the house being on edge and aware and alert, and then by 10 past 9, slowly the mood would change and improve and we could go back to our lives, and it had an enormous impact. But even as a child, a whole rich robe of thoughts swirled on a day like that, and it still happens, and I'm sure you had a number of thoughts, perhaps many you couldn't even articulate to your own family, because it's not something you really want to talk about, especially if you've got children. I don't know what was the thought that stayed in your mind last night and then this morning, but I am sure, because you're a human being, you had plenty of them, and one or two of them will have struck you as strange thoughts. You will have thought that it was odd that the woman's arm was sterilised before the needle was inserted into the vein. You will have thought that. Hundreds of millions of people thought that when they heard that that had happened. But this is the thought that won't go away for me. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Perhaps the best known thing about this woman, after what's happened to her this morning, our time, is that she found Christianity and became a devout, born-again Christian at some point early on during the 15 years that she spent in prison before she was executed. And when you come to think of the business of capital punishment, you find yourself wondering, don't you? Am I the only person who wonders this? You find yourself wondering whether, if you execute a Christian, or anybody who subscribes utterly to a religion which believes completely that there is a life, and provided you live your life properly, a wonderful life to be had after death, then surely execution is... Let me put my cards on the table completely. It's not as big a punishment for somebody who believes that as it is for somebody who is completely atheistic. Free call 0500 10 53 89. Even if they're wrong, and even if there isn't a God and there isn't an afterlife, that person will have gone to their death very differently from a person who believes that beyond that day of death there is only oblivion. They will have gone to their death, surely, with a sense of hope, with perhaps even a sense of purpose. Free call 0500 10 53 89. This is so many issues. It's capital punishment, it's religion, it's the business of an afterlife, whatever that afterlife might be or might not be. Another thought that won't go away when it comes to wondering about heaven and hell. And if you've got children, it's something that crops up in the conversation a lot, and you have to stick by your guns with there being a heaven if you've got children, because it's just the best way to get through some of those impossible questions. When I say impossible, they're questions that you can't answer for certain yourself, so you err on the side of what's comfortable, don't you? But have you noticed, like me, that whenever anybody has a near-death experience and then is resuscitated, they only have memories of heaven? Nobody ever says that in the moments when their heart was stopped, they were being prodded with red-hot tridents by lots of little men with red pointy ears and tails, and that Hitler was sat next to them drinking scalding hot water. I merely mention it because it's in my mind. What's in your mind? Lots of thoughts, I expect. Well, go ahead, let's share them, let's talk about them. The number's free call, 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd, this is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Radio, the nation's interactive station. Free call 0500 1053 89. Free call 0500 1053 89 now.
Patrick's our first caller in this hour. In Exeter, you're on Talk Radio.
Hello, Tommy.
Hi, Patrick.
Just a point. I think really this religion thing, when people are on death row, seemed to cloud the issue slightly. I watched the news this morning and I saw one of the relatives, the people who were murdered by this woman, and he said basically that he felt ever so sorry for the woman's relatives. But his parting words were, well, now you know exactly how we felt when she carried out this crime. And I think basically at the end of the day, we've got to stop people killing for killing's sake. We have to do an eye for an eye thing. I think religion, we get carried away with religion slightly.
No, when you say it clouds the issue, you mean it clouds your issue.
Well, mine? Why?
Yeah. Well, because this show is about this issue.
Yeah.
And this issue is whether, if you execute a Christian, you're inflicting as big a punishment on somebody as if you execute somebody who doesn't believe in a hereafter.
No. Well, no, but don't you agree then if we execute a non-believer, then it doesn't make any difference?
No, I'm asking you, because I can't work that one out for myself. It does seem to me that if you go to your death, knowing that you're going to live forever, then that's not quite so painful as going to your death knowing that's it.
So don't you think she might have come out with this, I'm going to be okay, just to make herself feel better or make everybody else feel bad?
No, I want you to try and concentrate on the question that we have in hand here, Patrick. Right. Whatever else you've thought about execution, and then we'll get on to that after you've had a go at the question that I want to ask you, which is whether you think, well, what I said. Is it less of a punishment for somebody if they believe?
I don't think so, no.
Why not?
No, but I'm taking it personally from a non-believing view. Is that too easy to say?
Let's talk to Adam, who calls from Cheddar. So Adam, is it that difficult a question I'm asking? Adam?
Obviously you think so.
Are you there?
Yeah, hello, Tommy.
Is it that difficult a question that I'm asking?
Oh, I personally don't think so. In my point of view, Tommy, everything we do in life, we remember. Our memory, we remember things. And all I wanted to get on the radio and say is, if there was nothing after death, why would we remember anything? Would it just be a little bit pointless? So I believe there is something after death. And if you're a Christian, you believe these things. So I personally don't think it matters that much to someone who believes in life after death, because they're just quickening up to a better way of life.
Right. So you believe that punishment by execution is less of a punishment for a Christian than it is for an atheist?
Yeah, because an atheist obviously doesn't think anything happens after death.
No.
Whereas a Christian, all his life, believes that he's going on to a better place.
Meet the Maker.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And live happily in heaven. I wonder what heaven's like.
I don't know, I think everybody's heaven's going to be different.
Well, that can't be, can it?
Well, yeah, but one person likes one thing, another person dislikes the same thing. So heaven has to be quite a broad place to cater for everyone's needs of what they think is good.
Free call 0500 10 53 89. Let's talk to David in Leamington. You're on Talk Radio. Hello, David.
Hello, Tommy.
David?
Yeah, what I want to say is I'm speaking from a perspective of being a Christian, Tommy, but I think I disagree with you on your point in one aspect, in the sense that it's still state murder by the Americans, even though she's a Christian, and she sort of, she feels and knows that she's going on to the heavenly realm.
Yeah.
So I can see a point, but
I'm not making a point. I'm asking a question. Now, you're a Christian.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen to you when you die?
Well, I'm sure I'll be going to heaven.
Okay, that's great.
And in communion with God.
Okay, now you've been condemned to death.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to die in 3/4 of an hour's time.
Yeah.
And so have I, and I'm in the same cell with you.
Yeah.
Only I'm not as certain as you are.
Yeah.
You see. Now, which of us is going to be the more worried?
Well, you see, I mean, I don't know what your personal beliefs are, Tommy.
Well, I'm agnostic.
Hey?
Let's say I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist.
You're agnostic, did you say?
Let's say I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't believe in a hereafter.
Yeah.
Now, you're in the cell with me. You believe you're going up to heaven.
Yeah.
Which sounds great.
Yeah.
I don't.
But I think the point is, Tommy, when a non-believer or an atheist dies, Tommy.
Yeah.
And incidentally, I think you are deep down a believer.
Not
From what I've heard.
Get on with it.
But when a person dies who's not a believer, I think they'll have a shock and suddenly discover that they'll sort of say, after about a few seconds after death, they'll say, "Oh damn, there is an afterlife.
Yes.
I wish I'd."
Yes. So in other words, being executed is a much greater punishment for an atheist than for a Christian.
Well, in the sense that if they've rejected Christ and rejected God in their earthly life, then they'll be in the Book of Revelation says that they'll be thrown into the lake of burning sulphur.
Great.
So I suppose.
Yeah. That's not fair, is it?
Well, no.
That's not fair.
When you say not fair, what do you mean by that?
Because Christians are being meted out a punishment which is lesser for them than it is for atheists.
But I don't think no Christian would regard heaven as a punishment, though. That's a sort of reward for your earthly effort.
Exactly, and you spend your years on death row knowing that's where you're going, whereas the atheist spends his years on death row knowing that's going to be it.
But isn't that why? But surely that's why. Surely that's why people on death row in America who haven't got a strong belief or faith. That's surely most of the deaths on death row because of that. Because they think, well, why should I just hang around waiting for something that's going to finish me off anyway? Whereas if a Christian's gone through persecution of mind, even though admittedly she's committed some terrible crimes, she knows that it'll be worth hanging in there because she's got a sort of reward after she's died.
Sotir calls from Cardiff. You're on Talk Radio. Sotir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, young man. I've just heard that you were saying about people who had near-death experiences and they only remember heaven, and nobody ever said anything about hell. Well, I remember when I was a young teenager, I decided to challenge the priest in the confessional. And I went through the story of God being all forgiving and all the rest of it. And I said, well, where's hell? And he answered me back. He said, my son, he said, you're here.
It does seem like it sometimes, doesn't it, Sotir?
Well, it stopped me in my tracks anyway. I had no answer to that.
Yes. Did you ever see that Sartre play where this bloke dies and goes to hell and he turns out to be, he's in a drawing room with these insufferable people?
No, I haven't, unfortunately, no.
It's good. Watch it. Watch out for it. Thank you for your call. Free call 0500 10 53 89. The thought that I had when I woke up to this morning's news that the execution had taken place. Wasn't it funny how everybody kept going on about it's the first execution of a woman for 100 years in Texas? It sounded to me like an effort to make it seem even more something or other than it was, because that presumably means, you see, my brain worked like this. That means women have been executed elsewhere in the United States much more recently. But it's more potent to say for the first 100 years in Texas than to say the first woman executed in the United States for 18 months. But my first thought was, since so much play had been made of the fact that she had become an entirely reformed person during her years in prison and had become devoutly religious and is a practicing born-again Christian who is certain of her place in heaven when she dies, then that comfort must have made what happened to her, I would guess, less of an ordeal than that which would be suffered by an atheist who are undergoing the same fate. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
On 11:07 a.m., the conversation of the nation. 10:53, 10:89 a.m. This is Talk Radio.
Paul calls from Birmingham. You're on Talk Radio, Paul.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Tommy.
Sir.
All right.
Yeah.
I was up last night and I saw some of the execution going on, like the build-up to it. But as you said, the first woman to be executed for 130 years in, where was it, Texas?
In Texas?
Oh, wherever it was.
Yeah.
I think they've executed many in the past, you see, more recently.
Yes.
But as to regards whether it's a lesser punishment, I don't think it is. Basically, they turn to God while they're in prison to make it easier to accept the penalty when it's coming up.
Well, you can say that. We'll never know.
Well, yeah, but if
It's
you're
what you
sentenced to a... Sorry?
It's what you think.
Yeah, because, I mean, basically, if you're sentenced to a life of death, you know sooner or later you're going to get it.
Okay, maybe. That's a maybe. Agreed?
Yeah.
Okay. But there are Christians, aren't there? You must have noticed them.
Yeah.
Okay. And they believe absolutely in a life after death.
Yeah.
And that it's good.
Yeah.
For them. Okay?
Yeah.
Agreed? There are also atheists.
Yeah.
Who are certain.
Yes, I agree.
That this is it.
Yeah.
And this is all there is. Which are you?
I'm more of an atheist, I think.
Okay. So if you were to find yourself on death row...
Yes.
You would be very worried, wouldn't you?
Well, not really. I mean...
Not really?
Yeah, well, you know you're going to die.
Really?
You know you're going to die, so you accept it.
Yeah, but not next Tuesday at midday.
Yeah, so you've got a lifespan in a prison that no matter what you do, it doesn't matter because you're going to die anyway.
What are you trying to do? Come on the radio and say that if you find yourself on death row, then you take it in your stride?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you're going to be
part
worried.
Of life's rich tapestry.
Well, this is the point. What I'm saying, Tommy, you said yourself, which you rushed through very quickly, you'll go to heaven, you'll have a good life, providing you've lived a good life. But you said that very quickly. Now, this lady didn't live a good life. She killed 2 people with a pickaxe.
Yeah.
So, therefore, she doesn't know if she's going to get to heaven anyway, whether she's turned to God or not.
Oh, yes, she will.
No, well, we don't know that, do we? And neither does she.
But she thinks she does. She thinks she will. She believes she will.
Well, they might have a different job for her, like gate person or something.
But she doesn't believe it. You can hope that, or you can think that, or you can suspect that. But she will not believe that. She did not believe that.
But if there is a God, let's presume there is a God then, right? And we go to heaven if we do good in our life. Then if that God accepts you and forgives you for your sins, why is there a hell for those that don't repent? Because what I'm saying is he must be have some evil lines in him as well if he doesn't accept everybody and he sends you to hell instead to suffer a life of pain and fire and torture. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
So that's why I don't believe we go anywhere.
No. We don't like to think about it too much, do we?
Well, that's why I don't think about it, because once you're dead, you're dead.
Probably. But it won't be painful being dead. I think being dead is painful. Dying might be painful. Being dead is no more painful than before you were born.
Well, yeah, but they say it is. They say you'll suffer a life of your soul will be tortured and...
Right. Oh, some Christians do, not all, but some Christians do.
Yeah,
But that's because they care about you, Paul.
Yeah, right.
That's because they love you.
Yeah, right.
And doesn't it feel like it?
Yeah.
Cheerio. Nice to talk to you.
All right, thank you, Tommy.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Here's Chris calling from London. You're on Talk Radio. Chris, good afternoon.
How are you, sir?
Hello.
Right. Coming from an atheistic point of view, I'm rather peed off with all the religious people who keep telling me I'm going to die or burn or whatever. And since it's going to be so wonderful the other side, I think we should really help them on their way, or at least give them the option. Because rather than make my life a misery by constantly hassling me with knocking on doors and preaching and so on, why can't they just sort of take the easy way and get there quickly?
Right.
If they're so wonderful. I haven't worked out the ways because I'm against capital punishment.
Oh dear.
So, but I mean, maybe sort of extremely voluntary euthanasia. Or
extremely voluntary euthanasia.
Like, you can buy an aspirin, but maybe it's not quite an aspirin, Go and meet your maker very quickly and stop hassling me,
Christopher, you just made me laugh. The idea of extremely voluntary euthanasia as a euphemism for murder is a beaut, man.
No, it's not murder, Tommy. It's just kind of like,
thought of going to work with Peter Mandelson. That was one of the best bits of spin I've ever heard.
No, look, come on. It's got to be really bad walking around throughout your life thinking, oh, my God, I did this really bad today. I'm going to burn in hell. Oh, God, I've got to help 18 old people across the road. Yeah. Then maybe I go to heaven.
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly live my life like that,
Well, I think that if you accept that, to suffer execution, if you are certain of an afterlife...
Well, it's no problem, is it?
Exactly.
I mean, it's like a holiday in Barbados for me.
It's less of a punishment than if you are an atheist.
Exactly.
That...
keep them alive, I say.
A punishment should be found for atheists who commit capital offences, which is...
Suspended animation, I think, for all Christians. So they have to stay alive forever.
I see your point. Suspended animation.
Yeah. So they live in perpetuity, and they never actually get to the pearly gates.
I saw the Sylvester Stallone film you're thinking of.
No, well, I haven't seen that one.
Awful, wasn't it?
It's a good idea, though, isn't it? I mean, going back to the last hour with all these old people and so on as well, who, they all fill up hospitals, cost us lots of money. If they're Christians or whatever faith they have, you say, well, just take this film instead. Yes. And it will save us a lot of money.
Chris, thank you for your call. It was a very bad film because, Hollywood always casts British actors as the world baddie nowadays. You get Alan What's-his-name all over the place, and that guy with the Terence Stamp, always playing the megalomaniac that Sly Stone or Bruce Willis has to overcome. In this film, I forgot what it's called, the world-dominating megalomaniac is played by the man from Yes Minister. And it's all wrong. It doesn't seem right. He's a great actor, but he can't carry that one off. Where were we? Talking about the things that people end up talking about and thinking about, but often don't talk about. On a day when you wake up and find that the thing you're being asked to talk about and think about in the news is that a woman's been given a lethal injection. Mark calls from Bognor Regis. You're on Talk Radio, Mark.
Hello, Tommy.
Hi.
I'm interested in what everyone's talking about, but a common point that people keep bringing up seems to be about, if they've done good or something, they go to heaven, and that will kind of make them feel happy. And perhaps if they've done bad, they might be thinking about hell and whatever. But this is a basic thing that keeps being spoken about, and yet, if you take it from the Bible, which presumably is what all Christianity is all about, it doesn't even talk in there about hell in a sense of some burning place of torment. It just means the grave. That's where you're going. It comes from a Greek and Hebrew word, Sheol and Hades, which means, the ground, which is what you're going into.
So you go nowhere.
It talks about a resurrection in the future, so that's something good to look forward to. But if you're going to talk accurately about it, then it's just it's a load of nonsense to think you're going to go to hell. It speaks about heaven. It speaks about it as a minority in the Bible who actually go there, but the bulk of people, presumably, are going to be brought back to earth.
Well, thanks for the homework and thanks for the thought.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Tom.
Cheers.
Bye.
Joyce is in London. You're on Talk Radio, Joyce.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. This is my first time. Hi. Well, everybody's talking about, whether she's going to heaven or hell or whatever. Doesn't it depend on her motives to turning towards Christianity? Won't God find out whether her motives were true or not when she gets to, the pearly gates, if you know what I mean?
Well, who knows? This is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't, you don't, nobody does.
Nobody does, but, it's all, as far as I'm concerned, we'll never know whether there's a heaven or a hell. So the whole conversation is quite, because if she's lying, we'll never know. She's telling the truth. We'll never know.
No. But what we do know, or we can believe, and I believe this, is that her last years, months, weeks and days were less painful because she found a certain belief that there is a wonderful afterlife for her.
Yeah, but she could have been a very good actress, though. Come on, she could have been an extremely good actress and convinced herself. But at the end of the day...
You're avoiding the issue.
I'm not.
You are. Yes, you are.
I'm not. I believe what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. Then it's not a punishment. If she thinks she's going to hell...
Yeah, that's the issue. That's the issue.
But if she thinks she's going to heaven...
All the other issues have been talked about.
Yeah.
Endlessly.
I know, but what you're saying is true, but then it depends on what her motive... It boils down to what her motive is.
No, it doesn't. It boils down to how we punish people who don't believe there's an afterlife in a way that it's as big a punishment...
There is no way. There is no way.
Uh-huh.
There is no way.
That's not fair, is it?
Well, that can't be helped. That's not fair.
I know, but this is a big disparity, isn't it?
I know, but...
It is.
Well, atheists don't really, care. You're right. This is hell. The life we're living now is hell.
No, this is an enormous iniquity in our judicial system. Well, all right, the judicial system of countries which operate capital punishment.
I think maybe we're going a bit too far because we're talking about a book, aren't we? We're talking about a Bible. We're talking about a God that nobody's ever...
No, we're talking about a judicial system.
Yeah, but you're talking about God, heaven and hell, and nobody can prove that either of them exist.
No, we're talking about crime and punishment.
Yeah. The crime is that she was killed.
That's a man-made thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's not going to go to heaven, is she, if you don't think it exists? She thinks she's going to go to heaven. That's great. That's made her last few days happy.
Yes, exactly. Much happier than for an atheist.
And you don't think that's fair?
Well, it clearly isn't, is it?
It's true. That's true. But,
well, we both learned something. Well, somebody did anyway in the last 2 minutes. You see my point? That's my point.
Yeah.
And when I heard that she'd been executed, and when I knew what her views were, that was the thought that I had this morning. What was your first thought? Because I think a lot of people went to bed half... expecting and largely hoping that she wouldn't be executed. I did.
Oh, I did as well.
So what was your first thought then when you got the news this morning?
That she was well, I thought, well, I hope for her sake there's a heaven. That's what I hoped. I hoped for her sake there was a heaven, because otherwise, you know, her last few, well, at least they were happy, let's hope, but I hope well, I mean, it depends on her motives again. Well, if there is a God, then, and her motives were pure, then, yeah, but if you're, I mean, you know, it depends. There's a lots of, you know, points and holes. I mean, there are holes in the Bible. I mean, if her motives weren't pure, then she wasn't going to heaven.
No.
So then where does she go from there? She goes to hell. Yeah.
Right.
That's my point.
Yeah, thank you for the bog standard addendum to the conversation.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Information which is usually preceded by it's a well-known fact in connection with capital punishment. It is that if they held a referendum on capital punishment in Britain, it would be back like a shot, because 90% of the population believe in it. You always hear that, and they always say because they've taken polls and 90% of the population support capital punishment. I know that's not true, and you know that's not true. The time has come to confront that little homily, because it simply isn't true, because the British public is a heck of a lot, heaven of a lot better than that, isn't it? You are, I am. Free call 0500 1053 89. There aren't many things that we're better at than Texas at. But sure, as eggs is eggs, this is one of them. Mark calls from Stonehaven. You're on Talk Radio, Mark.
Hi, how you doing?
Good afternoon, I'm well, you?
Well, not bad.
Yeah.
It was about the near-death experience thing that you mentioned earlier on as well. How people just see heaven before they come back.
Yeah.
And I think it's because if they do die and they see hell, they stay there because they meet all their friends anyway.
Okay. Thank you for your thought. Sean's in Slough. You're on Talk Radio, Sean.
Hiya, Tommy.
Sure.
Yeah, we actually gave her a real helping hand here. She got off the hook because if she wanted to get off this mortal coil and to her paradise quickly, the other way, suicide, would have been a no-go, because it obviously that's a mortal sin. So, you know, we actually did a right favour here. I mean, she must be laughing right now. Considering if she's right, that is, if she is actually right, that she's in her paradise now.
What would we give to find out?
What would I give to find out?
Any of us.
If there was a paradise?
Yeah.
Well, I've got my paradise sorted out. I've got no problem about that. I'm just depending on myself. I don't depend on anybody else's doctrine or rule book, as someone might say, a Bible or whatever. Because this exposes, if I can just say, Tommy, that the biggest lie of all about Christianity, or you could say about any organised dogma, and that is that eternal damnation waits for anyone who dares to resist God's infinite love. Now, how can someone be infinitely loving and offer you eternal damnation at the same time?
Yes. A nice little gotcha there.
Yeah.
I must admit.
I mean, personally, I don't actually care. The main issue that...
You have all these barrack room lawyers outside the pearly gates arguing the pros and cons of it, don't you think? You'll be there.
Well, that's what church is all about, isn't it? Small print. It's all about small print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Country solicitors, the lot of them.
Well, seriously, it's outrageous. I think the best way to punish someone like this lady maybe would be to give her some kind of electrocution to the brain, which would make her forget that she became a born-again Christian, and then make her commit all kinds of sinful acts. And maybe even turn her into a Satanist or whatever.
Yes.
And then play her a video of herself when she was praying as a born-again Christian, something like that. That'd be pretty painful for her.
There's an enormous problem with that, which you may or may not know, that in the United States of America, at least, under the Hippocratic Oath, doctors are not allowed to play any part in the process that you've been talking about. So this brain surgery would have to be done by prison warders, just as the medical aspects of last night's events were carried out by prison warders.
Oh, they weren't doctors? No. Really?
No.
I didn't know that.
No, I think we used to have, when we had executions in this country, there used to be a doctor who used to attend in order to pronounce the victim, what do you call it, victim, patient, I don't know, dead. But in the United States of America, no, their medical authorities have said that the Hippocratic Oath precludes any involvement in any execution.
That's a bit dark, isn't it? I wonder if they still wear their uniform.
Don't know, mate.
When they're doing it, that's a bit kinky.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, that sounds a bit nasty, that does. I don't like the idea of that.
Thanks for your call. Look out for Lorraine Kelly. She shops in Slough.
Does she?
We found it out last Tuesday.
Yeah, where did she go?
Around.
Did she mention any shops?
No, just around.
Around?
Just around in Slough.
Slough's best for going around, really.
Thanks for your call.
Okay, cheers, Tommy.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
And you. Mary calls from Falkirk. You're on Talk Radio. Mary, good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy.
Mary.
when I was a teenager, and probably when you were a teenager too, and you weren't quite sure what you believed, and you were going to believe what you believed. And I really wasn't convinced there was a God. The very thought of dying was so dreadful. My stomach used to go into a knot. I thought, oh no, is that going to happen to everybody? Is that going to happen to me? But as you get older and you learn to accept death, it's not quite so bad. You're sort of agnostic. You're willing to be convinced one way or the other. So if I had been sentenced to death as a teenager, it would have been terrible.
Yes.
But to be sentenced to death now wouldn't be quite so bad, but then again, I haven't killed anybody.
You've made a grand point here, if I may say so, Mary, and I'm very grateful. Capital punishment is not only a greater punishment for an atheist than for a Christian.
That's right.
It's a greater punishment for a teenager.
Oh, yes.
Or a young person.
Oh, yes.
Than for an old person.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Because I think I could accept it more now.
Well made.
Because I'm almost positive that there is something. I know... Well, I want to believe there's something. And it's not quite so frightening when you actually think about it. But when I was young, I was terrified.
You made a very good point. You made it well. I hadn't thought about that, Mary. I'm grateful. Thank you for your call.
Okay, Tommy.
Yeah.
Bye.
Sue's in Gravesend. Sue, you're on Talk Radio.
Hi, Tommy.
Afternoon.
Hi. I read a book some time ago written by a lady who'd had a near-death experience. And in it she says that, I mean, whether you believe this or not, it's up to you, but I quite like this idea of how we all come to pay for our sins at the end of the day. She says she was met by a guide, and this guide took her to a man that she perceived to be Jesus or God. I don't know whether it's one and the same or which it was, but it was one of them. And she was taken and shown all the things that she did wrong. She said they didn't speak to each other as such in words. It was kind of a thought transfer. They knew what each other was saying. And she was shown all the people and all the things that she'd done wrong. Are you there, Tommy? You are?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so quiet. I thought I'd been cut off. And she said it was dreadful. She felt all the feelings of the people that she'd hurt, and she didn't realise how many people she'd hurt. And she felt really, really bad about that. And then she was shown all the good things that she'd done, and she said it kind of balanced out. So my thought when that lady was going to her execution was, oh dear, how is she going to feel if she has to feel all those feelings of those people? And I thought of the saying, I understand it in the Bible of revenge said the Lord is mine. And if that's what does happen, she got in the book, she got the feeling that we all went there, good or bad, and this is how we had to deal with what we'd done to other people.
Thank you, Sue. The number's free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. It's Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening. Eamon's called the programme from Exeter. You're on Talk Radio. Eamon, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello.
You were saying about capital punishment being a lesser punishment for Christians.
Seems to be, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, because I don't believe in God and the afterlife, but a friend of mine does.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking today about national pride.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, would you die for your country? And I said no, because hardly anything is worth dying for, because life's all we have. But to him, he doesn't value life as much because he believes that there's no afterlife.
Yes. It's funny, isn't it? It's a new issue in connection with capital punishment, isn't it? But I've certainly never heard discussed anywhere. I just wonder why. Whether it's because people don't like to talk about the afterlife and heaven and hell too much, for all sorts of reasons. That's all I can think. But you are aged what, Eamon?
17.
Now, this is an age at which you don't mind talking about things like that, do you?
No. Why should I?
Because, in all probability, it's something which you won't have to confront for another 70 or 80 years. So you feel a bit safer talking about it. I find middle-aged people... Rather not talk about it, thank you very much. No. Whatever happens, happens. They'll say things like that. But you guys will talk about it till 3 in the morning, won't you?
Well, I don't know. But he also believed in capital punishment as well. But I don't.
What, your Christian friend did?
Yeah.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it, to know if there is a distinction drawn in a number of atheists and Christians who support capital punishment. The thing is what?
If I'm right, then people won't know. because they'll be gone.
Yes.
But if Christian's all right, we'll know.
It is your only worry. You might hear somebody saying, I told you so, but they never will.
Yeah.
Yes. Damn. So, there's a catch-22. Can't help you, though. Haven't got the answers.
So I think you're right about this.
Thank you. I'm grateful for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. Mark's on the line from Swansea. You're on Talk Radio. Mark.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello, Mark.
I mean, if the lady was a proper Christian, then she shouldn't have gone through all these appeal systems and everything. If she knew that she'd done it, and there's no chance of her getting an appeal, and she is a Christian, and then she should accept the law of the land and prepare to meet her God. It's as simple as that. That's in America, especially in the South. I mean, our minister goes out there. He's got a church in America, and all the prisons out there are full of born-again Christians. It's even President Clinton says he's a born-again Christian because he's got to get the vote from the South.
Yes. Yes, I see your point. Thank you for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. It's lawyers who bring about appeals, though, isn't it? One astonishing piece of information which is difficult to get your head round at first is as follows. Supporters of capital punishment often say that it's cheaper for the state to execute somebody than to look after them in prison for 20, 30, 40 or 50 years. But the simple fact of the matter is that it isn't. Because the legal wrangling that goes on around a sentence of execution, which can take months or years, 15 years in the case of that woman, is infinitely more expensive, hundreds and thousands of times more expensive than the 3 square meals a day and a set of prison bars that somebody gets if they're sentenced to life. It's much more expensive to execute someone than to condemn them to life in prison. Free call 0500 1053 89. Now, capital punishment for lawyers, that would be a different debate. Matthew calls from London. You're on Talk Radio, Matthew.
You okay, Tommy?
I'm all right, Matthew. How about you?
Let me tell you, before I say anything, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a real enlightening book on Edgar Casey, Reincarnation, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. Now, you said there's a little gotcha. Now, here's a real big gotcha. The fundamentalists, the born-again Christians, believe that no matter how good you are when you die, if you're not a Christian, you go to hell. So that means what these guys, these girls on death row, they may have murdered 20 people. So if these people were good, ordinary, decent citizens, they would be damned to hell by the guy who put them there, along with God's iniquitous, crazy law. So they would be freed by the death penalty. So how could they be freed from a jail sentence, freed from old age and conscience, and they'll be in heaven with God? Now, how can the relatives of those children or brothers or sisters who've been murdered, how could they ever go to heaven and look at those people? How do you explain that?
Can't.
Well, you've got to have this life. It seems crazy that if it was so that you got one life, one chance, and then heaven or hell, that would be absurd, wouldn't it? You've got to have the idea that you come back, pay your karma or whatever, and you live a series of lives in both the material and the spiritual realm.
I'm with you. Yep, thanks for your call. Matthew in London, much respect. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
This is Talk Radio.
Stuart calls from Bolton. You're on Talk Radio. Stuart.
Hi, Tommy. All right?
All right, Stuart.
I was a non-believer half an hour ago, Tommy. But I'm a believer now, a firm believer. If all you have to do is believe in God.
Yes.
So what, 24 hours of live football,
yes,
a bird on your knee, a beer in your hand, and loads of food in your belly for eternity. I'm a believer, Tommy.
Hallelujah.
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 I've done it live on Earth.
Yes.
I've seen the light, mate. I've seen the light.
I'm going to ask you to get up out of your seat.
I'm up out of it, Tommy.
Yes.
I'm seeing it all in front of me. 24 hours a day. The trouble is, though,
yes,
I'm a Born Wanderer supporter.
Yes.
So it could be 24 hours a day of agony, but never mind, it's better than going to hell, isn't it?
Well, yes.
Well, I don't know. Not till I started it, weren't it?
I've heard Division 1 described in a lot of ways, but never that.
Yeah. Well, we keep winning it, Tom.
I think that's where you're going. Sorry. Thank you for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. Well, you've got to keep your chin up, haven't you? Even during discussions about execution and heaven and hell. Paul calls from Chingford. You're on Talk Radio. Paul, good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy.
Hi, Paul.
Tom, there's a lot of people talking an awful lot of stuff here about committing murder and then if you believe you go to heaven. What about repentance and all that?
Yes.
I mean, if you have the point in when Jesus was on the cross supposedly, and he had the two thieves next to him.
Yeah.
One on one side said, "If you're the Son of God, then save us and save yourself," and the other said, "I have done wrong, therefore I take my punishment." It's the lady had an awful lot of appeals going, whether it was lawyers or not. If she had repented properly, then she would have said no appeals. There was a serial killer in America a few years back called Ted Bundy, and he was pretty nasty, but he knew he couldn't stop himself, and he got caught in a state that didn't have a death penalty. So he escaped from there and went to another state in Florida that had a death penalty. And when he committed another 2 murders, completely callous, he knew what his penalty would be because he knew he couldn't stop. There's something in the Bible. I was baptized a Catholic. Whether I am one now or not, I don't know, but it's basically when 100 sheep are together and one strays, if I find the one that strays and it decides to follow me, then it will have eternal life. Is it about whatever?
It's about sheep.
Yes, but it's also about people.
It's about sheep.
You always ask a question, which is totally enlightening to a lot of people. And basically it's, this is heaven and hell, or is it purgatory? Nobody's mentioned that place.
Purgatory?
Exactly.
Do you know where the Muslim purgatory is?
I haven't got a clue. I'd like to find out.
I think it's a place called Bazaar.
It could well be.
Is it Bazaar? No. What's the name for it? It's a word that's come into the English language and is used casually often. And I was reading a book about Islam the other day, and it turns out that it is the Muslim equivalent of purgatory, where you go to hang around to decide what's going to happen next to you.
Whether you decide what you've done in your life before was good or bad.
Something like that.
Or, yep,
and on a point of order, you don't have to lodge an appeal yourself. Appeals can be lodged on behalf of other prisoners, whether they wish them to be lodged or not. So
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But surely, if you state categorically, I mean, you have a lot of people who decide to do things and they state categorically that I do not wish anything in my defence because I know I've done wrong.
No, people can still appeal on your behalf.
Yes, but surely there should be a law now that says that we can't.
There isn't, so I'm afraid we can't get her like that, Paul.
Okay.
No, we can't.
No, fair enough. I'm not pushing the case. I'm not pushing the case.
Worth a try. No, I know. Thanks for your call.
That's all right.
By the way.
Yep.
They went on by, so you're all right.
Okay.
Yeah. Bye. Free call 0500 1053 89. There was a time a couple of years ago, of course, when they didn't go on by. I don't know if you were listening, but we were talking to somebody, and we heard the police siren. And it was for him. Because he was driving along on his mobile and he was talking. And we were yakking away and we suddenly heard... And I said something to him like, I hope that's not for you. And he said, actually it is. He said, I'm just going to have to hang up now. He said, because they've just pulled me over because I'm actually driving along talking to you, so bye. And sure enough, I got a letter from him. And apparently they were very good about it. But it's not something we do. Donald calls from Newton Ards. You're on Talk Radio. Donald.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello, Donald.
Tommy, it's nice to talk to you. I often listen to your programme. This is my first time on, so I'm a wee bit nervous. But I would like to just say to you that I'm a born-again Christian. I have been now for 4.5 years, and I would just like to let you know that for the born-again Christian, death no longer does hold any fear, because we have the assurance that we will be in heaven one day with the Lord.
Well, you're a perfect person for me to talk to about this, then.
Thank you.
Because an atheist would fear death more than you.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.